Welcome to the construction site of the Chicago's World's Fair. Engineers in the future will want to visit this World's Fair.
All the new technology that has been invented will be used for many years to come.
Now, let's take a look at the set used to make a floating foundation, which is a new development in the engineering and architectural world.
As you can see here in this picture, I'm representing what it would have looked like when they laid the rebar down to help stabilize the building before laying the concrete down. A floating foundation, or raft foundation as it is also called, is employed when a building is constructed on soil that contains a high mixture of clay, sand, and water. Because of the way in which it is constructed, floating foundations spread the weight of the structure over the entire base of the building, rather than a scattered support of spots. Floating foundations are shallow, making them ideal. Floating foundations can be built on high moisture soils. The positioning of the foundation above the earth, rather than in it, helps create a moisture barrier between the ground and the structure. If the earth is expected to move due to high underground moisture or high levels of vibration, as in case of mining areas or heavily used roads, floating foundations will not be compromised.
Buildings are constructed on two types of foundations: deep foundations or diagram walls, where occasions pass through unstable soils to get to their deeper support from deeper, harder soils. Shallow foundations, floating drip footings, pads are spread through base of the structure. The most common shallow foundation is the strip footings that runs through under all the load-bearing walls. Here you can see that I am pouring the concrete over the rebar to finish solidifying the construction of the floating foundation. The poles that are sticking out of the rebar are to help distribute the mass weight of the building that will go on top of the foundation. The key buildings reminiscent of the Greece and Roman ideas for the construction of the building. Some of the new technology used to put up in the new buildings in such a small amount of time were spray paint and the new type of plaster that looked better and hardened a lot faster to help speed up the construction of these buildings. The new plaster only allowed the buildings to last for just a year or two until the Columbian expedition come to its final days.
The Rookery, and a transitional structure in the history of American architecture, incorporating both masonry and metal construction methods. Masonry piers support the outer walls, while the inner frame is built of steel and iron. In order to erect such a massive structure on Chicago's soft clay soil, Root devised an innovative floating foundation, a network of iron rails and structure beams encased in concrete that supports the building's immense weight. In addition to this innovation method of construction, the building incorporates many other features that heralded the arrival of the modern age, including passenger elevators, fireproof construction, and electric lighting. The Rookery building in the heart of Chicago's financial district stands testimony to the resilience and creative spirit of the late 19th century Chicago. The rebirth of the city in the wake of the Great Fire of 1871 gave rise to the multi-storied office building that would transform the landscape of American City. Amidst the atmosphere of experimentation and innovation that defined post-fire Chicago, the architectural firm of Burnham and Root rose to prominence. Daniel H. Burnham and John Wellborn Root formed their partnership in 1873. By that time, they received the commission for the Rookery in 1885. The firm had already established a strong reputation in tall commercial structures. Complete in 1888, Burnham and Root's 11-story Rookery was one of the tallest buildings in the world at the time. Following the Chicago fire, a temporary City Hall and water tower were erected at the corner La Salle and Adams Street. These buildings were known popularly as the Rookery because of the many birds that roosted there and the likelihood of being rooked by the politicians and residents. Evoking the historical origins of the building's name, Root playfully incorporated a pair of carved rooks in the romance archway of the main entrance on LaSalle Street.